All right, so we're going to solve this problem for x. To solve for x, the best thing to do, some teachers teach it, some don't, but I think it's really a good strategy to use, and that's called multiplying by the least common denominator. Whenever you see a fraction in a problem, multiply by the least common denominator. The least common denominator is 5 times 3. 15. You don't even have to write 15. You can write 5 and 3. 5 and 3. Notice I'm multiplying both sides. I'm multiplying both sides by 5 and by 3.
Yeah.
Okay? And now there's another way you could have done this problem. It's called cross multiplying.
Oh, okay.
And that would have worked fine, but it's really doing the same thing. And to be honest with you, cross multiplying only works in a unique situation when you have a proportion like this, when you have one fraction equals another fraction. But that's not always how it is. So I always like to tell people, to be safe, learn how to do it the more general way, which is just to multiply by the least common denominator. So what happens when I do that? What happens to this 3 and that 3?
Cancel.
Yeah, those cancel. And what happens to this 5 and that 5?
Cancel.
They cancel. And so really, what did I multiply? I cross multiplied, didn't I? Can you see that? I multiplied the 3 over here and the 5 over there.
So
what I have is 3 times x minus 5 equals 2 times 5. And now to solve for x, I'm just going to get x by itself. So the first thing to do to get x by itself, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can distribute the 3 in. 3x minus 15, that's probably the safest way, equals 10. The next step is, what am I going to get rid of, the 3 or the negative 15?
Negative 15.
Right, remember I'm trying to get the x by itself, so I'm getting rid of everything else, right? So add 15 to both sides, so that means 3x equals 25. Notice I'm not putting the little plus 15. You can do that if you want to, but the further you get in algebra, the less you'll do that, because it just kind of dirties the paper. You can keep a little bit of information in your head. People can tell how you went from that step to that step, and if you did it right or wrong. So it's okay if you want to put that there, if it helps you, but I don't do that. It doesn't help me, and most people don't do that. Now what's the next step?
Divide each side by 3.
Divide each side by 3, so you get 25 over 3. And you can rewrite that if you want. 3 goes into 25 8 times, and there's 1 left over.
25 into 3. So
3 goes into 25 8 times, right? And that's 24. 3 times 8 is 24. And there's 1 left over.
So x equals 8 over 1/3.
So x equals not 8 over 1/3.
8
x
and
equals
1/3.
8 and 1/3, or 25 thirds. Or
So
if you use your calculator, it would be 8.3 repeating. Just don't write 8.3, because that would be wrong. Okay, now how can you check this answer? If you have a calculator, you can plug it in to that. It's very easy to do using your store button on a TI-83 or 84 or 85. You store 25 over 3 into your calculator, and then you literally just type in x minus 5 over 5 and hit equals and see what that gives you. Okay? Let me point out a couple things. First of all, you could have done this once you got to this point. Once you got to the 3 and the x minus 5 equals 2 times 5, you could have divided both sides by 3 instead of distributing the 3 in. That would have been fine. So then you would have had x minus 5 equals, this is 10, right? 10 thirds. Leave the fraction. Don't write as a decimal, because you'll make a mistake. And now how do I get x by itself?
We're going to subtract x.
Not subtract x. We're trying to get rid of the minus 5.
Oh, then add 5?
Then add 5 to both sides. Now, that's the right answer, but now your teacher might not accept that, so you might have to do more.
Okay.
So to do more, you could say 3 goes into 10 3 times, and there's 1 left over. So what's 3 1/3 plus 5?
7 1/3.
8 1/3. Add the whole numbers together. 3 plus 5 is 8, and then there's still 1/3. So that would have gotten you the same answer. But mistakes are made oftentimes when people in the intermediate
steps. So it's easier
steps.
just to distribute.
sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's not. It just depends.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there was a 3 over here, if there was a factor of 3 over there, it actually would have been easier just to divide the 3 out.
Okay. But
Either way is fine. Just make sure that you write the answer in an acceptable way for the teacher and you don't make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make a rounding error, and don't be afraid of the fractions.